Oh, maybe I should make my mic. My camera. Did you start already?
Yeah, but you do your thing, man. You good?
Yep.
Breaker, countries. Wait, that's not the right show. Welcome, heroes and heroines, to another episode of Tales from the Spinner Rack, a comic book review show. I am Matt from the Absolute Geek Podcast.
And I'm Jay from the Audio Ammunition Podcast.
There you go. Welcome. We are here again. It's another fantastic week of books to review. I don't know. What did you think about this week's selection before we get into reviewing them?
There were some surprises. Okay, I'll just put it this way. There were some very high highs and some very low lows.
There was some very high highs and very low lows, as well as I think this is the first week where I have to officially declare that I did not care for any of the X books that came out, and we got 3 of them. So
they can't all be golden.
I guess not. And this week pretty much proved it.
They can't all be golden eggs.
No, they cannot all be golden eggs or golden girls.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and start off this week's show with my pick of the week, or I don't know, our pick of the week, and what I would call the surprising book of the week is it's an Image Comics number 1, 20XX. I know you read this as well, Jay. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about 20XX?
Okay, so first of all, I just want to mention that it's in black and white, which I would say either
is it in black and white, or are you just colorblind?
Oh, come
mine's
gosh.
in color. Mine's in color. I don't know about yours.
Is it really?
Yeah, mine's in color.
No, mine,
it's not. No, it's
not. Okay. Oh, you know what? I just went to the eye doctor today.
It's in color in my mind's eye, not Corbin.
So, yeah, it's in black and white. It will either lend towards a specific mood, or it'll totally clash with what the atmosphere that the writer's trying to do, and it'll just totally throw me off and I won't like it. This, however, I thought was it enhanced the mood of the book, and I really enjoyed it. You don't like it? You didn't like it was black and white?
Set the mood.
The mood.
No, I enjoyed that it was black and white. It was very homages to Walking Dead. I enjoyed it.
That's kind of what I thought, but then I'm like, well, I don't read a lot of like indie comics, so Walking Dead's probably the only thing I knew that was regularly in black and white. The book starts out with this regular working class woman, and she's going to a job that she doesn't necessarily like, and it follows her going out into the street. And so apparently people have to wear masks because there's some sort of a virus that people can contract, and they're always having to wear masks. And then you kind of get the feeling that there's people that have the virus and people that don't. and they're treated very differently. So this girl, she walks in, and she's actually she doesn't like her job, but she's set for a promotion, so she's like really excited about that. So she walks in, and she's ready to be basically handed this promotion, and her, I guess her eyes start like bleeding, and the people around her just freak out.
You guess her eyes started bleeding, or
Well,
her
yeah,
eyes
they
started
did. They
bleeding?
did. They
Okay.
did. They started bleeding, and it was pretty grotesque. And so she gets rushed to the hospital, and sure enough, she's got that, she contracted that virus. And so she goes and she gets put into like quarantine, and they're basically, I guess, when you get this,
1% survival rate.
yeah, when you get this virus, you basically have to wait it out and see if you are the one of the 1% that pulls out of it, or the 99% that, you're 6 feet under. And she makes it out, um, pretty miraculously. She makes it out okay, and so she starts to realize, like what I was saying, that the people that don't have the virus um, are treated differently from those who do, because when not only do you get this virus, and if you survive it, when you survive it, you are then you're prone to special abilities.
Yeah, it implants on you and a certain part of your brain, and depending on where it implants, you develop a certain form of telekinesis, a certain form of power, of mind power, and the mind powers are outlawed. You can't use them. So she's handed a pamphlet of telekinesis in you and how to control your powers, and she's told to come back once her powers manifest, and that it can take a few days or weeks, and that she'll get away with whatever happens the first time, and then she has to control her powers, and they don't have to wear masks because they're immune to this disease. The one thing I thought too was really
Yeah.
interesting about this book is its setting. This book takes place in this dystopian Anchorage, Alaska. So it's like Anchorage, Alaska that's kind of walled off.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty interesting too, as far as the setting of the book. Like you don't see very many books taking place in Alaska.
30 Days of Night, maybe. That's the only one I can
Yeah.
think of off the top of my head. So yeah. So after she gets this virus, so I guess they can only go to certain places. Like they can only hang out with each other. There's certain bars that are friendly to, the people with the virus. So she goes in there because nobody really wants to talk to her anymore. She goes, she survives the virus, and the first thing she does is go back to work and say, "Hey, I'm still alive. I'm ready for that promotion now." And they say, "Oh, well, actually, we gave that promotion to somebody else." And so she goes, "Oh, okay. Well, then I'll just have my old job back. It's no big deal." And then they say, well, actually, we already hired somebody for that job, so there's no place for you here. Sorry." So she doesn't really know what to do. So she goes looking for her cousin, right?
Yep.
And she
Her
goes
cousin,
to,
who also has already survived the virus
yeah.
and has these abilities. So she goes to him because she trusts him and she feels like he can give her the best chance of learning how to control this new ability that she's going to manifest.
Yeah. So she goes looking at, and the place she goes is kind of seedy, and she just starts kind of talking to some of the locals, and they guess right off the bat that she's new to the virus, just because they say she still has like the doe eyes of, experiencing this new world, which is, I guess, like they're kind of like second class citizens, just because I guess people are just nervous of their powers. So yeah, she goes to this bar, and she meets um, this other lady that has the power, her powers, and eventually she ends up hooking up with, well, not hooking up, but she meets up with her cousin.
She totally hooked up with her cousin. Some
Yeah.
crazy ancestral things going on.
Now that's why we know it. That's
Yeah.
Matt's pick of the week.
That's my pick of the week.
So yeah, so she meets
Little
up
bit
with
of
her
cousin love.
So she meets up with her cousin finally, and
Or as normal Tuesday, as people in the South call it. Little cousin love.
Oh gosh.
Or as
So yeah.
people in Tonopah call it.
Yeah.
Cousin love.
So yeah, she meets back up with her cousin, and I guess he's kind of like a. Did you get the impression he's kind of like a gangster of some sort?
No, I felt like he was kind of like a dishwasher at this restaurant.
But didn't he have something to do with that like robbery
There
that
was
occurred?
well, no. So they go into the restaurant and the robbery occurs. And I can't remember. I don't think he had anything to do with it because she's talking to him and he's kind of like, they kind of like meet each other, and then these gangsters with powers too bust in and a fight ensues, and like he basically slashes or throws dishes with psychically moves dishes to attack a dude, and the guy kind of like slits his throat or something somehow, and he like falls backwards and snaps his neck against the counter. And this whole then the other guy like or the girl shoots a knife into like the waitress's chest, and then the main character of the story, her name is Mir. She finally figures out what her ability is when she screams stop, and she's about to get killed, and she pretty much disintegrates the skin off one of her attacker's body.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess it's
might not show up well because of the light, but
yeah, so she basically like she blows all the skin off the dude, and he's just basically like a skull and clothing. So yeah, I wasn't gonna get this book because I saw the cover, and it's like one of those things where, like when you go to a party and you can already just tell by the people hanging out outside that it's not going to be for you, and you just keep on driving. That's kind of what I felt like with this book. I just saw the cover. I'm like, I don't think it's for me. But Matt was getting it, and he was excited about it. And I read the description of it on previews, and I'm like, so it seemed pretty cool. And sure enough, it was good. It was really good. In fact, it was maybe other than Daredevil, it was like one of the best books I picked up this week or last week.
Yeah, I really liked it. I'm gonna give it a 4, even number. I kind of felt the only thing that stopped me from giving it a 5. I mean, look, I liked the book. The story kept me interested. I like the setting in a dystopian Anchorage, Alaska. I kind of like the fact that it doesn't give away too much. But I kind of felt like the art was a little shoddy. It was very like first time indie like book, something you usually find in like your local comics section of your comic book shop.
The local artists section.
Very like local zine, high school zine. My first comic put together art. I don't know if it's purposely meant like that or not, but I enjoyed the story. I like that it was black and white. It kept me interested, so I'm gonna give it a 4.
Yeah, I totally see where you're going. I kind of noticed that too, especially like even the panels were all just like very basic, like and yeah, it did have a very zine type feel to it. Some parts, and yeah, I totally get it, but I liked that about it. I liked that it was clean and easy to follow, and there wasn't a lot of like razzle dazzle in the artwork for sure. But again, I thought it lent to its charm, and I loved the story. I loved the pace. There wasn't a lot of lag time, and it didn't feel rushed at all. I liked that you kind of saw a little bit of insight into the main character's life. I think a lot of times people don't do stuff like that. And I think it's a lot of missed opportunity because it helps you invest in a character. It makes you care about this character and what happens a lot more when you kind of see a slice of life of theirs. So I really like the book too. Gosh, you know what? I'm going to give it a 4.5.
I mean, it's by the creative team of Jonathan Luna and Lauren Keeley. So, I mean, it was like I said, and Jonathan Luna pretty much did everything himself. Lauren Keeley helped him write the story, but he did the story writing, the art, the penciling, the lettering. So, I mean, it's very much a creator-owned book. But it surprised me, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm gonna give it my surprise book of the week. And I think for me, a 4 is solid. If you're gonna go 4.5,
Yeah, I'm going to give it 4.5. I was very pleasantly surprised.
all right, very good. Well, I'll go next real quick with another book that I have that you don't. I picked up Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Power Rangers #1, the Raphael Red Ranger helmet variant, Virgin variant. Look, this is simple nostalgia, people. If you grew up in the 90s or even the late 80s and you were a fan of Turtles and Power Rangers, this is a book for you. It was
Who put that out? IDW?
Yep, it was by IDW. It's a fantastic ride of nostalgia. Basically, the book opens up with the Power Rangers fighting one of Rita's monsters, and they're all kind of like, "Where's Tommy?" Tommy's nowhere to be found. The Green Ranger. They dispatch the evil monster, and then they're at the juice bar, the Jam and Juice bar, and Angel Grove kind of talking about how they wish like their lives of Power Rangers was a little bit easier, and that monsters didn't always attack the city at the most unfortunate times for them. And then it cuts over to New York City where the Turtles are fighting. They're fighting the Foot, and they're kind of razzing each other and one-upping each other and talking smack to each other. And Raphael's going to town on a bunch of Foot, and he gets one of the Foot land a shot on him, a big shot on him. And then Michelangelo and Donatello are making fun of Raphael for that Foot ninja taking a shot at him. And Raphael gets a shot back in too and kind of rips his mask off. And he kind of turns around real quick and says "Ninja Vanish" and throws a smoke bomb and disappears. And you see that it's Tommy. And for some reason, moral of the story is the Power Rangers start looking for Tommy. They can't find him. He meets up with the Turtles again as they fight another time. This time he morphs to try and get a jump on the Turtles. As he morphs, the other Power Rangers lock into him and come into the scene. And the Power Rangers and Turtles start fighting each other till they all kind of have this realization that, hey, we're both the good guys here. And so basically it's for some reason Tommy has joined the Foot Clan. And he's in cohorts with the Shredder to help the Shredder take over the Power Rangers and use the Power Rangers to produce a new Foot Clan. And that's kind of where the first issue ended, was Shredder declaring that he's going to overtake the Power Rangers and use them as his new Foot Clan. So, like I said, 100% cool. 80s and 90s nostalgia. If you're a Turtles fan or you're a Power Rangers fan, pick it up. It's well worth it. I'm excited for issue 2 just because it definitely hit that nostalgia / kid inside of me still. So I give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Cool. I've never been much into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I do think Shredder is one of the coolest looking villains like ever.
Yeah, he is.
So yeah, that's awesome that he's in it. There's been several times that I've tried just at like slow weeks that I'll pick up a couple Ninja Turtle, the ongoing series on IDW, and I just can't get into them. I don't know what. I'll just be like, oh, I have extra money. I'll pick up, like Samurai usually has, 2 or 3 issues. I'll pick up all 3 of them. Be like, okay, I'm going to make another attempt to get into Ninja Turtles. I don't know why, man. I just can't get into it. It's
Yeah,
cool. I recognize it's cool, but I don't know. I don't know why.
I think it's just the age difference, man. Like I was in those that was ingrained in me as a kid. Like 85, 89, 85 when I was born to 90. What that the movie came out in 90, so they had the cartoon and then the movie, and I used to watch that movie on rerun constantly. So and then they had the other two movies, the Turtle 2 Secret of the Ooze, and then the 3. But Turtles just kind of always stuck with me. The cartoon, the video games, the movies. It was just my childhood. And then, of course, the 90s came. And once Power Rangers hit, I was a huge Power Rangers fan. That kind of replaced Turtles. So now you're mashing. Like I said, now you're mashing those two together. The only thing you're missing in this is Ghostbusters, and my childhood would be complete. So,
the Ghostbusters animated.
yeah.
Yeah. See if they had
the real Ghostbusters.
When IDW came out with a G.I. Joe Transformers crossover a while ago, and see, I thought like you, I'm like, oh, that's my childhood,
Yeah.
put encompassed in one book. Yeah, it sucked. I got the first issue and then I didn't bother for any more.
Well, no, they've had IDW likes to do these weird crossovers. They've done Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, and then they've done Ninja Turtles, Batman. So like IDW likes to do all these weird crossovers, and I mean they're kind of fun. And I'm going with the Ranger head variants. I want to do a different helmet with a different turtle, and to go along with if you look at the background there, my Power Rangers variants where they're all holding their helmets. So I kind of want to get the different turtles. I'm going to try and keep them as color coordinated as I can. So like Raphael with red, Leonardo with blue. And then, once you get to Donatello and Michelangelo, that's where things get a little iffy. But the one helmet, the one I want, it's a hard to find variant. I think it was a retailer variant. It's actually Shredder holding the White Ranger helmet and like smashing it. So it was pretty intense cover. I kind of want that cover a little bit, but it's probably going to be like the Green Ranger cover was, and like ridiculously expensive.
Well, that's pretty cool. So if anybody's out there's listening,
yeah, give me that book. Merry Christmas to me.
All right. So what do you want to do next?
What do you got? What else you got?
Let's jump into X-Men. X-Men number 3.
Oh. All right.
This is where me and you kind of differed, because I didn't mind this. I thought it was actually, I don't know, I like it when I'm surprised and when something that's new, especially in X-Men, it's hard to do anything new that hasn't been done. And especially with characters, I think a lot of times maybe writers are gun shy to introduce new villains or whatever, but we're introduced to, how many of them were there? 4.
Well, before we talk about this, I just want to say real quick, this book, it came out a few weeks ago that Hickman tweeted that he was trying to get fired from the X-Men, and they just haven't fired him yet. Yeah, and I don't know if he was being sarcastic. I took it as sarcasm, but he said, I'm trying to get fired from X-Men. They just haven't done it yet. If there's ever an issue of X-Men that would back up that statement, it's this issue.
No,
yes,
really?
It is. So? Yeah, absolutely. Because you could have had the villains in this issue could have been so badass, but then when they reveal themselves, and you're like, are you serious right now? This is what they did with this? This is how this went?
Yeah. The only thing,
and not just that, the fact that they won up Cyclops, not only Cyclops, but they won up everyone. They won up Cyclops. They won up Emma Frost. They won up everybody.
I think the reason for that is because of who they were, because it put everybody's guard down. And I mean, okay, so it was 4 older ladies that came on. They came in through a portal, onto Krakoa, and they
So
are.
no, they didn't come into Krakoa. So they came in through a portal outside of the it was outside of the Savage Lands.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so the X-Men detected that something was going on, right?
And just for some
And
backstories, the Savage Lands is where they grow their flowers, the Krakoan flower gateways, the gateways they use to get to and from Krakoa.
yeah, and like the Savage Land's been in X-Men lore forever. It's kind of like a forgotten land where, there's dinosaurs and Sauron lives. And anyway, so yeah, so they get in there, and the X-Men, there are some mutants already there, but the four ladies who are like,
They're
who
tending
have,
to the flowers. They're the flower keepers.
yeah, so they're not like armed or anything. So they're immediately taken down by these four ladies, and they start just harvesting flowers, because they're botanists anyway. And so, well, they belong to like a huge, I guess, like a huge think tank, or like a big, they're part of a larger organization. So they get in there, they start harvesting flowers. The X-Men from Krakoa detect that there's something not right over there. Like that gate's not responding, or something's going on.
Krakoa is in pain, so
Okay, yeah.
they realize that Krakoa is in pain and that they can't get to the. They realize that the gate to the Savage Lands won't open. They can't get into the Savage Lands, so they have to go around the long way to try to get to the Savage Lands. And mind you, when these ladies show up, they look like total badasses. They're all in like samurai / old plague doctor gear, so they've got like plague doctor masks on and stuff, and their masks, they look badass when they show up, and then it's when they remove their mask and it's fucking the Golden Girls. It's Blanche and Rose and the fucking Golden Girls, 90-year-old women who are just complete badasses over some flowers.
So they get in, and the X-Men, they go all, yeah, like Matt said, they had to go a long way around. They had to use that little like Aborigine teleporter dude. And so anyway, so they go around, and they get there, and it's Cyclops, Sebastian Shaw, White Queen, Emma Frost, and they basically come up there to him like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And Sebastian Shaw tries to, or who was it? There was this really funny part where they basically talk a lot of smack to White Queen, to Emma Frost.
They basically call her a whore.
Yeah.
They're calling her a whore and a slut.
And there's this awesome panel where the panels are exactly the same, except Emma Frost's eyes are like widened.
Yeah.
And Sebastian Shaw has his hand over his mouth.
It's like they say trying not to laugh. She dresses like a whore.
Yeah.
And but the thing that killed me about that is the way they wrote the writing is. They literally wrote out you H word, you B word, I'm gonna kick your A word. They wrote out the word A word or B word, I was like, okay, this is super kiddie now.
Yeah, I thought it was okay, so this was all before you see who's actually behind those awesome masks. And I saw them like, oh my gosh, this is really lame writing that stuff. So anyway, so Sebastian Shaw goes over and tries to like sweet talk him, and they like hit him. They've got these guns, like these slime guns, and they hit him with them. And I don't know if it disrupts their powers somehow. So Sebastian Shaw's,
it dampens their mutant abilities.
Yeah. So Sebastian Shaw's taken out immediately, that's the one thing is Sebastian Shaw's supposed to be one of the most powerful mutants. And yeah, he gets taken out in like seconds by these ladies. And so yeah, so they start beating on him. And so Cyclops tries to step in, and of course he zaps a few of them. but then he gets hit with that gunk, and eventually they all do. But
And they get him with like the most stupidest ploy of the book, like that fake an injury. Ow, ow, ow! I'm an old woman. And then of course Cyclops being the Boy Scout. He's like, "Oh, are you all right?" And she's like, "Slimed."
yeah, see, that's the kind of thing. It's like they kind of use who they are to catch them off guard, and it worked. So yeah, so they're collecting these. They're part of a group called, is it horticulture?
Mm-hmm.
And so what they're doing is they're collecting. So basically, they're anti-mutants. They're an anti-mutant group, and correct me if I'm wrong. And they're gathering these flowers so they can kind of get a more of a feeling of what exactly like Krakoa is and how to stop it from spreading, or to figure out some ways of defeating it if it ever becomes like a real threat to humanity.
Right. They're trying to figure out a way to take out the island.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what they were doing there. But I don't, so Matt, I guess, gives it a huge thumb. I didn't think it was like awesome. I mean, it definitely had its plot holes in my opinion, but I don't know, man. I'd give it a 3.
I gotta give it a 2.5, man. Like, look,
We're close.
look, like out of the X books, X-Men issue 1 was kind of crummy. Like coming out of Powers of 10, House of 10, X-Men number 1 was kind of crummy. X-Men number 2 was better. I thought you can only go up from here, right? X-Men number 3 is gonna be worse. Joke's on me, apparently, because they decided to pull out some geriatrics as their bad guys, and it reverted. And I think my biggest issue with it is one, the kiddiness of writing out a word, or she's such a B word.
Well, it's because they were
Yeah.
old.
Yeah,
they
I know,
you know.
but it would have been funnier, and the fact that they called her a whore and that they went with it was really funny. I don't understand the why they're using so much Sebastian Shaw all of a sudden. It
Yeah,
seems like
that,
Sebastian Shaw is like the flavor of the week right now. I could have done without that, and just what Krakoa, the whole establishment of Krakoa, and the whole establishment was you can't get through these gates unless you're a mutant. So how are all of a sudden? I understand the assassins getting through the gate because they basically pick apart and they cherry picked parts of Domino. I understand that, but like the old women, we just love flowers, and the flowers let us through. You know, it's just like okay, and then you have this trained team of mutants in the X-Men, and they're dispatched. You got one of the most supposed powerful mutants in Emma Frost and Sebastian Shaw, and then
Yeah.
Cyclops, and they're dispatched by a bunch of geriatric women. You know, if like that's what I say. If this doesn't sound like Hickman is just shitting all over the X-Men, I don't know what does, because literally your leader of the X-Men and then these self-proclaimed or proclaimed strongest mutants are dispatched by a bunch of geriatric old women. The Golden Girls.
I thought it was a fun little issue. If this continues and if they like somehow become like more of a threat, or they take out more of them, then I'm gonna just call BS and jump out like you. Because like I said, one time it was funny. It made me it made me laugh. But if they become like a serious threat to Krakoa and like the more powerful X-Men, then nah, I'm not gonna have that.
It would just be like I half expected her to like give Apocalypse a wedgie and be like whippersnapper. You know, it's like, are you serious right now with this? Like I wanted to stop reading. I was like, no, I gotta finish it. But I was gritting my teeth through the old lady stuff. I was like, you got to be kidding me right now. Like the whole like idea of them stealing parts from mutants and capturing mutants and dissecting him to use him to get into Krakoa. That was cool. And we lost everything cool that just happened. Got ruined by X-Men, by the geriatric squad.
Hopefully X-Force will continue with that.
I hope so.
Yeah. So what's that? Go ahead.
Oh, I'm done. I get a 2.5.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give it a 3. Just for humorous. Just for humor,
Look, I loved House and Powers of X or 10, but you're getting 2 more issues from me, Hickman. You got 2 more issues to issue 5. You're getting 2 more issues. If this crap keeps up, I'm out. I'm done. Bye.
X-Men. I don't think there's a doubt that I'll keep getting X-Men, the flagship title.
Like they canned a really solid Uncanny X-Men story.
I know.
For geriatrics.
That's I can't think about that because Uncanny before this reboot launched, Uncanny was really good, and they were you were revving up with the whole like Return of Wolverine, and then that just kind of fell off.
Well, you were revving up with the Return of Wolverine, the redemption of Cyclops.
Yeah.
And then you fell off for geriatrics.
And Wolverine and Cyclops were building it was almost like the old days, where they were they're kind of building up like a little scrappy team to go after all of their enemies that have defeated the X-Men before. So in a sense, it was almost kind of like X-Force in a way. And it was looking really cool. And then
like they pushed, and I don't understand why they did it. Like that was more interesting, and it's like like you said, they reset it to push the new narrative and to push geriatric women, Krakoa, the return of Charles Xavier, and a Wolverine, Cyclops, Jean Grey threesome/love triangle.
Menage a trois. Yeah. It's some of the stuff with the House of X and Powers of X I didn't care for. Like I didn't care for that entire future line or storyline. That was, to me, it was just really boring, and I'm like, do I even need to know this? Am I going to have to know any of this? Because it's really boring. It kind of sucks. And then that whole thing with where they like assimilated with the phalanx. I'm like, what? I don't know, man. So far, I didn't. So far, I wish I would have just thumbed through those the future X-Men storyline. But the other stuff was pretty cool. Oh, it was cooler.
Well, I think it was needed because it gives you that future storyline. It shows you that no matter what they try to do, the X-Men always fail. They're doomed to fail. Their way of thinking doesn't work, and that's kind of what the whole futuristic thing was about. Is that this way of thinking doesn't work? Your way of thinking is flawed. It doesn't work. It's always doomed to fail.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, but like that whole, did I have to really know all that stuff about Nimrod being the leader and blah blah blah? It went in there a little bit too in depth for me, just to show us that.
Well, at some point on the roadmap, that's going to come back into play. But
that's what I'm thinking, and I hope so.
Who knows when?
Yeah. Or if Hickman gets the boot, who knows if the next writer is going to even pick any of this stuff up.
I think if he keeps writing about the Golden Girls and geriatrics, he's going to get the
boot. So okay, you want to do Batman? What do you want to do next?
Yeah, we can do Batman if you want. You want to go from one book I hated to another book I hated?
Yeah.
Batman 84, Battle for the Soul of Gotham. This is Tom King's penultimate issue of Batman, and it garbage. You garbage. That's about all I'm gonna say about it. It's garbage. Again, we had the awesome build up last issue, issue 83, we had that build up where we had that deep discussion about Alfred and his goodbye to the character, the goodbye to the Batman, his time on Batman, and how that affected Bruce. And we were building up to the end of the story and how everything was in place for this climactic ending. And then we get Tom King, like Tom King does, throws another filler issue at us that we didn't need. And what about this book did we need? What about this book was pivotal to the ending of this storyline?
I think the only thing, and you already kind of knew this, but to solidify that everything Thomas Wayne did to Bruce was for love.
Yeah.
But you already knew that. I mean, if you've been reading the storyline, I mean, he said it before.
Like you get
So
the only thing the book offered is it offers you some interesting looks at Thomas Wayne as a Flashpoint Batman, and you get some interesting looks at like Martha Wayne in that time frame as the Joker when she becomes the Joker, and that kind of explains that relationship, and it kind of lets you know that Reverse Flash is still trying to deal that whole Button and Dr. Manhattan Watchmen thing. And
see, that was cool. That was kind of cool. They showed that little part of the part of the Button you didn't see.
yeah, and then like it's like earlier, and you see her Martha Wayne as Joker shoot Catwoman, and it's all over the place in this book. And then it comes back to like literally this whole book, I think, led up to the very last line that's going to move it forward. It is listen to a man, to your father, who choose what you choose, who suffered the consequences of being the bat and this horror. For once in your damn life, listen, do what I should have done and stay down. So it's like this whole like thing about showing why Bruce Wayne shouldn't have been the Batman, and how Thomas Wayne is like kicking himself because he failed, that his son from a different fucking or I shouldn't say fucking because I want this to be in the stores, but I already ruined it. From a different fucking universe, he wants his son from a different effing universe turned out to be just like him, so he somehow failed. It doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah,
I understand where it makes sense for his time, but like, why are you trying to punish Bruce from a different time that lived and you died, where your Bruce died and you lived and your wife became Joker? Like, I don't know. It was confusing. I felt like unnecessary. I don't know. I'm just, for a penultimate issue, I think 83 was that. I think 83 is still going to remain that. And we'll see what happens in 85. But 84 was a gigantic waste of time. And it's just King doing kind of more of what he's been doing. And that's setting something up and pulling the rug out from underneath us. Because it's like you set up for this final confrontation, this big showdown. Like the panels of 83 ended with Batman putting on his cowl. And he's like, let's do this. And this whole issue is just backstory of Thomas Wayne. And then the final issue is Batman on his knees being told to stay down. And the big conclusion comes in the next issue. It's like, where were you going with this? Was this necessary? And I don't think it was.
yeah, it pretty much ended the same way the 83 ended. I mean, it started out with Thomas Wayne clocking Bruce pretty good, but one thing that kind of annoyed me was the constant time jumps. For pretty much like every page.
Earlier.
Yeah,
Earlier. How much earlier can be earlier? Like, at what point are you just at the beginning?
yeah. Every like 2 panels, in some parts, it would jump time. And one thing that was, I don't know, another thing you kind of saw in this issue was that Thomas Wayne was always kind of lurking in the shadows. It shows some, that where Bruce was proposing to Selina, Thomas Wayne was over there creeping out in the shadows. You know,
So you're saying he's a
when
predator?
yeah, when Clark
He's a
and
pervert. He's a peeping
and
tom.
when Clark and Lois and Bruce and Selena went on that double date to the amusement park, Thomas Wayne was there in the shadows, and so
He's just like,
that I guess
it's me.
so that part was, I don't know, whatever. You can love it or hate it, but um so yeah, and Thomas goes around taking out all the villains, and I don't even know if that's gonna. I mean, how can that possibly stay canon? Um, he takes out Penguin, he takes out Bane, uh,
Joker.
Joker, Riddler, pretty much everybody. He just shoots them, and so yeah, that I don't know, I mean, it was a little bit confusing, a little unnecessary, and at the very end, we're right back where we started, the beginning of the book. So
Hey Matt, what did you think of Batman 84?
crickets.
That's pretty much it, because Batman 84 Battle for the Soul of Gotham was more like Batman 84 Battle Against Boredom.
Battle for our for
Yeah.
our I don't even know, uh,
Battle for your
interest.
3.99. Battle for your 3.99.
Yeah, so it's too bad. Sometimes it almost seems like these are filler issues. I
And
don't know.
I defended Last Dish Batman issue so well. I changed Corbin's thought process on it, and I'm like, look, Tom King's a good writer, man. He knows what he's doing. And then you get this hunk of dog crap, and it's just like, maybe I'm the one that's wrong. Maybe Corbin's right. Maybe I'm
No,
wrong.
no. Tom King is a good writer, dude. I'm sorry, but I mean, I think Tom King's an excellent writer. But I mean, sometimes he just, I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't care anymore. Maybe he's just trying to rush it out.
This
Who
whole
knows?
storyline, this whole City of Bane storyline, feels like DC heads came to him and was like, "All right, we need a Batman book. We want Bane the bad guy. Figure it out. You got a couple weeks to figure it out." And that this story wasn't laid out. It feels very much like he was flying by the seat of his pants on a lot of this.
Yeah, the City of Bane was dragged a
Yeah.
lot, and even that whole Selena Kyle marriage proposal thing dragged way too long. Also,
Well, I think I almost feel like he thought he was leaving the book then. It almost feels like his cliffhanger was gonna be Selena leaves Bruce at the altar, and that was the end of it.
Hmm.
And then we get the rest of this, and just the City of Bane storyline does not feel fleshed out. It did not feel like it was laid out. It does not feel like it was storyboarded well. It just feels like he had one good idea, and then he was like, "Oh well, we need to make this work somehow. Let's put in this filler issue." And it's like somebody was like, "Well, Batman and Thomas Wayne are going to fight off, but we don't really understand why Thomas Wayne does all this, so the reader's not going to listen. So we need another issue to explain why Thomas Wayne is this way."
Yeah, or almost like, I think you may be right about how, yeah, it didn't seem very well planned out, and I think when the story was actually happening, they left those holes and go, okay, no, just forget that hole, just keep going. We'll explain it later.
Yeah.
We'll explain it later. And then now here comes these issues trying to explain some of the holes they left back then, and now you're like, I don't even care anymore, But
Yeah, and it's kind of like the rehash of the when Bane first broke Batman's back. Like Bane broke the Batman again, and he had to find himself again. And it's this whole story. All right, we're gonna have this epic showdown. Bane has just killed Alfred. All right, Batman. He's gonna set him at a table. Batman's gonna wake up, and then he's gonna have this whole internal monologue. Right? It's gonna be so cool. And then we're gonna go to the fight. When then someone was like, "Excuse me, Mr. King. But what is Thomas Wayne's motivation here? Why is he doing this? Well, what do you mean? Why is he, we'll get to that later, but just listen to my badass idea first. But your idea doesn't make sense. And that he had to go back and quickly work in for a way for it to make sense. Like, because listen, other than it could have been summed up, this entire issue could have been summed up in a couple words of dialogue to say, I never wanted you to be Batman. I never wanted this life for you. Lay down it's not worth it. You can't win. Lay down your vendetta and move on with your life. And and honestly, if you're watching I don't know how many people here are watching the Crisis, the CW Crisis crossover, but no, not to spoil it. So if you're not watching it, and you haven't watched episode 2 yet, no spoilers. But we know that Kevin Conroy is Kingdom Come Batman in it. Kingdom Come Batman gives basically the same speech Thomas Wayne gives in this, in a shorter amount of time and way better. So it's just like I said, you could have filled this whole issue with a couple words of dialogue of, I never wanted this life for you. Lay down your vendetta, move on with your life. It doesn't pay to be the Batman. Nothing good's going to come out of this. The end. You didn't need a whole 30-some page issue to try to get that fucking point across.
Yeah. Or, I mean, even like, did you have to kill all the rogues too?
Right.
I mean, they don't know who he is anyway.
Right.
Why go through all that, that whole charade with Bane and
right.
Even like way back when, even with Selena, and did you need any of that? Like you said, just come up to the dude and say, "Hey,
well, I understand,
trust me, I know this."
It's perception, because he's dressed as Batman. People perceive him to be Batman. Batman's going crazy. Batman's killing everybody. Batman's doing things Batman does. Batman can't be trusted. But at what point are you just like, you don't need all this? This is pointless. Like, you already told the story to this point. Why are you going back and re-showing Thomas Wayne's motivation for all this? Like, you could have done it through dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of filler. A whole lot of filler.
Or it could have even been in the final fight where they're throwing punches, a panel or two flashes back, it comes back to Thomas Wayne, it comes back to them fighting, a couple more punches are thrown, flashes back to Thomas Wayne again, and they're arguing about this as they're fighting, and it could have been done that way. You didn't need an entire issue of just his reasoning and backstory, and it just was like, man, come on.
Yeah, I know. Creeping out in the back, watching from afar. Yeah,
you would think that a writer would want to go on a run as big as Batman. You're on one of the top-selling books. You would think a writer would want to go out with a bang, not with a whimper. And that's what this was. This went out with a whimper.
Unless he just doesn't even care anymore. Because his run was cut short, right? I mean, it was supposed to like originally last to like 100 or 115 or something like that, and then for whatever reason they're like, no, 85's your last.
Yep.
Probably because they weren't selling. I'm sure it was motivated by
he went to go work on a movie. I think he went to go work on, I want to say Eternals, but I'm not sure if it's the Eternals. He went to go work on some script, and that's where he left the book at that, because he was pivoting to go work on a movie and a script. So
interesting.
Just
yeah.
I'll see how the story wraps up, but it almost feels like DC was like, look, let's milk this, give us this filler issue, and then we'll wrap it up in an oversized, Batman 85 that we can sell for $5.99. It's like, ooh, money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It'll definitely be a $6 book for sure. So, all right. So what do you want? Did you read Amazing Spider-Man?
I didn't. I bailed on it.
Number 35. It actually wasn't too bad because they didn't really talk too much about 2099. It was pretty much just about the assassination of Dr. Doom. And So the basically the whole thing is, Doom
Oh, hold on. We
gets.
forgot to give our scores on Batman.
Oh, I think I said. Okay. I'll give it a 2.5.
I give it a 1.
Oh, oh,
A 1. That's what you get. A 1.
it was entertaining, and the for once, and the art was pretty cool. I mean, Jordy Belaire's colors, man, that guy's such an ace. And just for the art alone, what did I say? 2.5 or 2?
2.5.
I'll give it a 2.5 just for the art
Actually,
alone.
I'm going to go. Actually, you know what? For the fact that I defended this book so heavily last a couple episodes ago in Corbin, and they come back and hit me with this dog crap, I'm going to give it a 0.5. 0.5.
That's wow. Okay, that was brutal. There's blood on the walls.
Yep. And that's just my because I'm scorn. Because you made me defend this book.
You called me a liar, Tom
Yep,
King.
pretty much.
Wow. Okay. I'll know not to tick you off anymore. um, okay, so Amazing Spider-Man, it's pretty decent. The assassination of Doom. Doom gets ticked off.
Did a bunch of geriatric women do it?
No, not this time.
Those darn grannies gone wild.
Yeah, Doom takes off his mask, and he's actually like 90.
Yep.
But so he unleashes a bunch of Doom bots on New York, demanding that his assassin be brought to him. And I won't give any spoilers, but there was
the book came out a week ago. You might as well spoil it.
Well, okay. So, Spider-Man and Peter Parker and Teresa Parker are kind of just going around trying to figure out who killed him, and they finally find Hitman, but somebody has already killed him. And so it turns out it was the Chameleon that tried to off Doom, and they want to just, let's just give Chameleon to Doom and be done with it. And so they're like, no, they're struggling with what to do. And finally, Peter Parker remembers he had that little device that can, I guess it can tell so a few issues ago, Peter was in class working with some other dude, and the guy came up with like this little device that can predict the future under certain conditions. And so they ask, he goes in and he tries to predict the future, and there's this panel where they show all the timelines of what can possibly happen with whatever they do. Do they give Chameleon to Doom? Do they not? Do they all this? So finally, Spider-Man is like, okay, I know what to do. And so they try to bring him Hitman, who was already dead. And so Teresa Parker kind of looks at him and is like, are you sure this is what we're supposed to do? And he's like, yeah, I'm positive. And so it turns out that Doom's totally saw through their plan and is basically just, starts at the very end panel, he just starts blasting everybody because they lied to him. And that's where the book ends. And it just says, to be continued in 2 weeks in Amazing Spider-Man number 36 and 2099 Omega. I'm not following 2099 Omega. I'll turn into Amazing Spider-Man number 36, but hopefully there won't be much mention of 2099 again. So it was cool. It was a fun issue. Again, I liked it because they didn't mention anything of the new Marvel cash grab, the latest Marvel cash grab, which is the 2099 series. And I don't know. I give it 3.5. It was a fun read.
Nothing could
Decent
be as
art.
bad as the last issue. So
No, man. In fact, like I've been I've been dreading reading Amazing Spider-Man because it's been so hit or miss, and this one was pretty, like I said, pretty lighthearted, fun read. So
Good, man.
other than Doob killing everybody, that wasn't that lighthearted, I guess. All right, so what do you got?
Let's talk Marauders.
Oh,
The one X book that from Get has been solid. Shit the bed this week. Marauders has shit the bed this week. Look, last issue, issue 3. Issue 2 ends with Kitty Pryde declaring herself, I'm the Red Queen, bitch. She says it. I'm the Red Queen, bitches. She's got the hold fast tattoos. She looks like a badass in her pirate coat with the sword and all that. And then, it was a little bit about the Sebastian Shaw double cross. But then we get Marauders issue 3. And it goes back into Sebastian Shaw just wanting to bring his son back to life. Which is fine. It's fine. You want to bring your son back to life. Yeah.
Which we haven't seen Shinobi in a long time. So, which was kind of cool because he died way back years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Krakoa birthed Shinobi.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Gold balls.
Yeah.
Gold balls and Krakoa birthed Shinobi. And then, the best part about this book, honestly, was Pyro, and the fact that he's so drunk that he can barely function. And they say that he got into Wolverine's stash, and they found him down there sleeping it off. So he was hammered, and then so it's this whole thing with Shinobi Shaw and how his dad wants to make him the Red Queen, the Red King again, and but that title's taken, so now he's what is it? What do they call him? The Black Pawn or something like that?
Didn't they say Bishop?
Oh, Black Bishop, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. They call him the Black Bishop, and how he tells him, but don't get rid of your red suit because we're gonna make a play for that. And then he kind of tries to push this narrative about how the White Queen and Red Queens were responsible for his murder. And I guess because it cuts to a page where Shaw's looking at him and his hand is phased.
Yeah, through his skull.
Yeah. And it's been so long, I honestly forgot how Shinobi Shaw even died.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
So I'd have to go back and figure out how he actually died again. But it's just, I found that the story just boring.
It was boring. There was a lot of father son, little back and forth, and Shinobi Shinobi wants to do his own thing, and Sebastian Shaw doesn't want to let him. Basically, he wants to basically it seems like Shinobi Shaw wants to, or Sebastian Shaw wants to take his son under his wing, and Shinobi kind of doesn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
That's basically the whole, summed up. That's what the book is. So we did see Professor X standing there.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder where the timeline in this is.
Yeah. So we see Professor X standing there when Shinobi. You know what else that reminds me of? It's like in Lord of the Rings when what's his face was taking the orcs out of the earth, and the earth would birth them out. That's kind of what that reminds me of.
Yeah.
When Krakoa they just kind of rip out of the womb, and all of a sudden they're there, and they've got all these memories. They know exactly who they are. So Professor X is standing right there. So I don't know what that's all about. I don't know if that's before X-Force, if Professor X got, they I don't even know what it's called. They revive him, I guess.
Reincarnate him or reanimate him.
Yeah. And so I don't know, man. I hope this doesn't turn into like the Hellfire Club, a Hellfire Club story, because the Hellfire Club were cool in little bits, but when they do entire arcs of them, they're really boring.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to look up to see how he died. I can't remember how he died.
Yeah, I don't remember either. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of there weren't pretty much any subplots or any side stories. It was just Shinobi, Sebastian, you know. Yeah, this one was pretty bad, but I'm not ready to leave it yet.
So he killed him. He put so. Okay, so he puts his hand. Says he was later returned to life through unknown means. He rejoined the upstarts, and together they killed the Nasty Boys to lure the X-Men. When he discovered they were unknowingly working for the Black King, he put his hand through his head, killing himself. So that whole hand through the head thing is accurate, but Shinobi Shaw did it to himself. He killed himself. And now, so Sebastian is trying to spin it to make it look like Emma Frost and Kitty Pryde are responsible for it. Since you don't remember your death. Like, you get your memories, but he doesn't remember his death. They spun it to where he's trying to say that, Kitty Pryde and Emma Frost killed him.
Yeah. So one thing that they leave out of his memory banks when they revive him.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna bring you back, but you don't need to know how you died.
That's not essential at all.
No.
So yeah, so that's pretty much where it was.
Marauders,
I don't know, man.
My favorite X-Men book in the run right now gets a whopping 2.5 out of 5 for me this week.
I was gonna say 2 for me. It's a 2. It was pretty dull.
It was. Very dull.
Yeah, not a lot of humor, not a lot of anything. It was just setup, I think. It was just all set up into characters that I don't even care that much about. That's the bad thing. So, all right. What do we got next?
What do you got? You got the last book I have is Excalibur. So what do you have that differs?
I'll
Daredevil?
go ahead and talk about what?
Daredevil?
We can talk Daredevil, sure. Excellent. Very excellent. Chip Zdarsky is, I mean, dude, it's so good. It's so like noir, like old, like 1940s like detective noir books. It's so fun. And so basically Matt Murdock, he issues ago, he's been dealing with not wanting to be Daredevil anymore. Ooh, that's not any original at all. But he's got this relationship. He's had this like really like do-gooder cop that has been after him. And even though he doesn't want to be Daredevil anymore, he's still kind of sort of trying to do some good. So he's putting him, he's like wearing a black hoodie and trying to look all, you can't see who he is, and he still goes out at night every now and again, and so he's encountered this do-gooder cop that got transferred. It's like a new transfer, and we know one of these guys that wants to clean up the town, and he's black and white. This is the law, this is against the law, there's no in between. So he's got this really, what's that?
He's by the book.
Right, yeah. And so he's had this really interesting relationship with Matt Murdock where they've had some some conversations about, hey, it's not like that. I don't operate like that. And he doesn't understand. He's had a hard time understanding until the Hell's Kitchen police department, I guess, is so super corrupt that this cop, the do-gooder cop, they like jumped him in the street and they're just beating the crap out of him. There's like 10 or 15 cops just on him, and Matt Murdock came and basically saved his life. And so now he's kind of having a different a different view of the way the world is, and that part's been really interesting. That Chip Zdarsky is such a good writer, and he seems to like um really get to the essence of like Daredevil, and the dialogue between these two guys is just so interesting and so well written, and it's very captivating. I mean, most of the book, I'd say, well, maybe like uh, almost half of the book is just the Matt Murdock and that cop just talking in a diner back and forth. And so, of course, you're also dealing with Wilson Fisk not wanting to be Kingpin anymore, but he still has too much like street in him, and he can't quite operate in like high society. It's stuff still gets to him, and so he's struggling with that. And meanwhile, there's other gangs in New York that are making deals to overthrow him, and that's basically the sum of the book. And so when Daredevil goes out, still trying to like just a couple of he saves a couple people every now and again, but he gets his butt kicked a lot. And so Elektra's like, look, man, you're either gonna do this or you're not. So if you're gonna go out there, I'll retrain you, and I'll help you be a better fighter again, because it's just embarrassing watching you get your butt kicked all the time. So yeah, then there's that, and then there's this really interesting storyline where Matt also like falls in love with one of this woman that's married to a high level boss in one of the gangs that he's trying to take down. And so he's having this relationship with this lady, and man, it's just, the whole book is so good, man, so good. If anybody's ever been on the fence about Daredevil, if you like the character, if you like the Netflix show, get into this now, because it's so good. It's, man, I mean, God, I don't remember when Chip Zdarsky even came on. Hasn't been that long ago. You probably just need to pick up a couple trades and you'll be caught up. But Daredevil, number 14. I'll give it 4. I'll go ahead and give it a 4-star review.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. Good stuff.
4-star review.
Like I did something, I'm taking the credit for it. Yeah, it's excellent. It's probably, gosh, I want to say it's probably my favorite Marvel book out right now. So
nice.
So what do you got? What do we want to do next?
What else do you have? Because the last book I have is Excalibur.
I'll just do another really excellent review on something, and it won't be long. Is
really excellent review. Actually, I hit the wrong one. I meant to hit this one.
What I meant to say on an excellent book. Review on an excellent book. Not that my reviews are excellent by any means, but this review that on Lois Lane, which is...
Oh, God, you're actually reading that?
Oh, dude, it's so good.
Is it?
Yeah. It's like it reminds me of like those old-timey like when journalism like mattered, like All the President's Men type thing, where she's trying to unearth corruption in government, and people don't want her to, and Superman wants to get involved, and there's all these reasons why she just wants him to stay away from her while she does this. And it's like she's kind of like fighting for her own like identity, almost like trying to get out from under his shadow and him doing everything for her. So she's getting in really deep in like government corruption. And but this issue in particular dealt mostly with dealing with her dad's death in Event Leviathan. And it wasn't as good as, it was kind of like a break in the storyline, but still very, very well, very good writing, excellent art. Um, gosh, I want to give it a 3.5. And the only reason why I don't give it a 4 is just because it is kind of a slight deviation from the main storyline. It's kind of like it's almost like a standalone book of sorts.
It's like a one-off, kind of like an annual issue almost.
Yeah, it kind of is. So the whole thing, it's 12 issues, and this is issue 6, so it's halfway through. But it was very well timed, just because Event Leviathan just ended, and Lois Lane's father played a big part in her life, and
isn't that
and
usually
Superman.
what dads do?
Kinda.
Dads usually play a big part in your life.
Yeah, but this dude was kind of
unless he went out for milk 16 years ago and never
for
came
scratchers.
back. Yeah.
So kind of, but she had a really rocky relationship with him just because he didn't approve of her and Clark. He knew who Clark was and he didn't like him.
How could you not approve of Superman?
Because he would always say that, he's an alien and you can't trust this all-powerful being, and he just had too many questions about him. Basically, he hasn't proven himself to him yet.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Being
a Kryptonian that saved the world countless times.
Hey, you never know.
You never proved yourself to me. Whatever.
No one's good enough for my little lady.
I guess so.
So, yeah, it's cool book, man. It's a good palate cleanser. It's something that's not, with the exception of this Event Leviathan thing, but it's kind of like its own standalone thing. You don't really have to know much about anything that's going on in the DC universe to read this. It's good stuff. I enjoy it.
Nice. I thought it was gonna be like the Mary Jane story. I was like, no thanks.
Oh no, dude, this just like looking at the thing that always draws me into comics is
the pictures.
And this, right? Well, no, the covers,
the artwork,
the cover. Just I'll look at a cover, and even if I've read about, with the exception of 20XX, I'll look at a cover and I'll be like, oh man, that looks cool. I'm going to get it. And even though I've never heard of it, I don't know who the creative team behind it is. If the cover's cool, I'll get it. And these Lois Lane books, man, the covers have been just awesome looking.
Good.
So
glad you're enjoying Lois Lane.
Yes.
All right, let's talk Excalibur, issue 3.
All right.
Not a whole lot to talk about this book. It's a 2. End of discussion. No, I mean, you really. What can you say about this book? You see, the new Captain Britain, Betsy Bardock, face off against her brother. And you find out that Jubilee's son can, in the like world they're in now and the land they're in, Jubilee's son can manifest into whatever creature he wants. So he becomes a dragon.
That's new to me. I don't know if it's new to anybody else, but
it's new to me too. At Jubilee, it's like, oh, my son's a dragon. Like,
and everybody was, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's a baby in the real world. He's human. He's not a mutant. He's a baby in the real world, but in this world, he's a freaking dragon. And she's all like, oh no, don't hurt my baby. And they're like, your kid has scales and he breathes fire. Like, what's gonna happen to him? Yeah, it's very weird. Excalibur again took it's like all the X books this week took a weird turn for the weird or for the stupid.
Yeah.
And
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And I was just say like her son turning into a dragon. A human
Yeah,
turning into a dragon. I'm just like, this is dumb. Dumb.
I'm not crazy about the whole Captain Britain Morgan Le Fay story. I don't know, man. I those are always like the weakest part of Excalibur, in my opinion. I mean, even like the old Excalibur. Um, one of the things that was kind of cool was we got to see Richter again,
Yeah.
and apparently he has some sort of weird depression, PTSD type
Because he
thing where
can't step on the floor.
yeah, he can't control his powers. So every time he steps on Earth, like everything just starts crumbling.
And then
And
Apocalypse shows up and he's like, hey, I want you to be my butt buddy. Come with me.
yeah, but okay, so there was something I missed. Okay, and so another cool um, part of this was we got to see Pete Wisdom again, who I thought used to be pretty cool back in the old Excalibur. Um, so we saw, like Matt said, Apocalypse basically take Richter and literally takes him by the hand and be like, "Come with me, it's all
Off to
right, frightened boy."
Neverland. Come with me, frightened boy.
Yeah, and then he kind of goes, "Wait, I thought you were taking me to Krakoa," and then you see Pete Wisdom, and he says, um, "He said actually, this is what does he say?" He says, "Actually, geographically, this is Cornwall, England." And he says, "England? I thought we were going to the island." And
I'm
I don't
Pete
know, man.
Wisdom, agent of MI13,
I
Division
think,
Black Air, British Secret Intelligence. The Queen needs her captain.
yeah, I didn't get that. So he like tricked him. He like
Right.
tricked him into take. I don't know, man.
Yes.
So apparently Richter's going to play some part in getting Captain Britain back. I don't know.
Come with
I don't
me,
know.
frightened boy. Frightened boy.
That's the part where it lost me. So yeah, gosh. Okay, well, what do you think, Excalibur? Then we'll
Two.
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 I'll give it a 2.5 just for the return of Richter and Pete Wisdom.
Two.
But if it would have been more of the whole, why is Rogan comatose? And why are you guys all making fun of
Well, he
me?
did. Like, it's still Gambit complained about it.
Yeah.
Like, your son's a dragon, and you're sitting here worried and complaining, and my love is a bed of flowers, and nobody's helping her. And I like how literally they were like, dude, she can be brought back. Her kid can't. Like, Krakoa can rebirth her. Her kid can't be rebirthed because he's not a mutant. He's a human. So
yeah.
it's just
when did Gambit get so thin-skinned?
right.
You know, that's annoying. So yeah, that was bad.
I think
Bad news.
he found someone's stash of estrogen and just started taking them. Got a little whiny.
Yeah, he's just, something happened.
He got a little sand in the old Cajun.
There was a turn for the worse somewhere.
Somewhere
all right,
along the
man.
line, he got a little sand in the old Cajun and decided to just bitch about everything. He went from the wisecracking opposite, bad boy of Wolverine to just being a whiny little butt.
Yeah, so much for the raging Cajun.
Right? Now he's the menstruating Cajun. Going through menopause, bitching about hot flashes.
So yeah, man, that about does it for me.
So yeah, me too. So let's go ahead and quickly. This is a part of our show where we talk about the books we're looking forward to that hit stores tomorrow. What's coming out tomorrow that you're looking forward to?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and pick up Undiscovered Country #2. I don't know if you're going to still be in it, but I'm going to give it a couple more. I think I liked issue number 1 more than you did. So I'm getting Undiscovered Country number 2. Aliens versus Predator have a new series starting up tomorrow called Thicker Than Blood. Dark Horse putting that out as usual. I might pick that up. For DC, Detective Comics number 1017, Dollhouse Family number 2, which I'm very, very much looking forward to. Flash number 84, Superman number 18, and for Marvel, Captain America number 17, which Captain America has been fantastic as of recent. The new writer that took over from, I think he took over from Nick Spencer, Ta-Nehisi Coates, he writes Black Panther, and even though I haven't been a big fan of that book, it's a little too dense. And I was so afraid he was going to turn Captain America into kind of like a political soapbox, because Ta-Nehisi Coates is an essayist and an author, and he's very political, very political. And I thought Captain America, I'm like, oh no, here we go, but he hasn't at all. It's been so good. Captain America number 17, I'm very much looking forward to. Fallen Angels number 3, give it another whirl. Fantastic Four number 17, Punisher Soviet number 2, which was number 1 was awesome. Definitely going to get that. And X-Force number 3. And Boom has a new series called The Red Mother that I might check out. And Something is Killing Children. Boom, a title that Boom was also putting out. Issue number 4 is coming out tomorrow, and I'm definitely going to pick that. It's been an excellent series or mini series.
That's James Tynion, right?
Yeah. It's like a fantasy horror type thing, but great read.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much hit mine on the head. I'm looking forward to Fallen Angels number 3, X Factor number 3, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 100. So definitely be on the lookout for TMNT 100 tomorrow. Could be potentially speculated to be a hot book, hot. So
is that going to be like the one that's going to have a bunch of different writers?
I'm not sure. I know there's a ton of variant covers for it. But TMNT 100, people, pick it up.
Yeah, that'll be definitely one to pick up.
But so, is there anything else you want to say before we go tonight? Anything else before we sign off?
No, man. I think I had my fill.
All right, guys. I want to thank you for joining us tonight. For all of a couple people that stopped by the chat, thank you for checking us out. Again, guys, this is a collaboration. So if you have any books that you're reading weekly that you think we need to check out and you want to hear our opinion on, or if you want to give your opinion on any of the books we reviewed tonight, make sure to do that. Leave those comments below. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button and click on that notification so you know when we go live. You can find this podcast wherever podcasts are, wherever you consume podcasts. Just look up Absolute Geek. It'll be on our feed there. And next week, guys, we're going to have a very special guest next week here reviewing with us. Not only will it be Jay Corbin and I, but we are going to be bringing all the way from Japan. We're bringing in Gregory Schoen, the writer of Ray Gun. He's been interviewed several times on Absolute Geek. He is a good friend of the show. He's going to come and review some comics with us. So I know he's stoked about that and he's looking forward to that. So cool. Tune in next week and as we welcome Greg to sit down on our panel and talk comics. So yeah. So for this week's episode of Tales from the Spinner Rack, I'm Matt.
I'm Jay.
And we'll see you guys next time. And as always, remember to support your local comic shop and keep them bag and boarded.